Freedom is the right to tell what they do not want to hear. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tired of the same repetitive government narratives? Then wave goodbye to the distractions and rhetoric of corporate media. For this is Anti-Media Radio.
But I want to get the language right. The government is in trouble.
You're all a bunch of slaves! Bunch of slaves!
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
What's your definition of media?
And now, here's your host, S.M. Gibson.
My name is S.M. Gibson, and this is Anti-Media Radio, your alternative to the establishment. Are you ready to get away from the corporate narrative? Are you sick of the politicians? Are you tired of the media telling you what to believe? Are you tired of the lies? Are you tired of the propaganda? Well, you are in the right place this evening. It is September the 17th, 2015. Again, I'm your host, S.M. Gibson, and is joined always in the studio with me, Mr. Shannon Madden. Shannon, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Gibson. How are you this evening?
Doing better than most. Can't complain myself.
None are doing better than Trump right now. Riding high, on top of the world. I can't believe, in a million years, could I fathom that we would be this close to Mike Judge's film Idiocracy.
We're there.
Got both guns in the air. He does not care. Still seeking out to offend everybody. And, of course, on the stage with everybody confronting him and CNN wagging their finger at him, he'll kind of back up a little bit. And he'll be on some, a talk show a day from now, talking the same trash and this, that, and the other. And, again, continuing to divide the people even further so him and his cronies can make some money.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing, too. Not only that, forget, from the debates last night, this is what I took away from it. We're living in 1984. We're living in it. It's crazy that war is peace.
It's amazing to me, and we both remarked on the fact that immediately, as soon as it opened up, when CNN announced that we have all of these candidates, and we're going to put the candidates in the order that they're polling in, and then each of them give their little... it really was set up so much like a game show, it's not even funny. And again, this is our President of the United States. This is the coveted leader of the free world position. That's what it's been reduced to, a game show.
The whole thing.
And we're the big losers here, us. We
are the big losers. Everything has become a big joke. Everything is about the E! Channel or TMZ. There's no dignity left. There's no real leadership left. There's no for the people, by the people. This is about, who can cause the biggest spectacle. You get somebody like Marco Rubio last night who, all the pundits, whatever that's worth. We all know what it's worth. It's worth nothing. Sitting here saying, well, he did great on foreign policy. The man literally talked about bombing people all night. This is what we need to do. We need to bomb people. And here's the crazy irony of it all to me is the American people and people around the world are just asking, what can we do to live in a peaceful world? This is the regular person on the street wants to live in a peaceful world. What can we do to have peace? And the politician's response is to bomb people. And the American people...
We're going to take that contract from Iran and we're going to rip it into shreds.
The American people come back and they go, okay, I'm listening, keep going. Okay, we're going to bomb people and we're going to take out their dictators. We're going to start these massive wars. And the American people respond with, yeah, that's peace. War is peace, literally, in the world we're living in. It is Orwellian what has happened to society. I tell you what, before I get too veered off course real quick, I want to run down a couple of stats like I like to do at the beginning of every show. These are stats that are not broadcast in the corporate media for whatever reason, whether they try to suppress them or whether they'd rather show you pictures of Donald Trump. For whatever reason, they don't ever get around to this. So far in America this year, in 2015, 849 Americans have been killed by police officers.
We're going to easily top 1,000 this year.
It's unfortunately, it does appear that way. 88 police officers have died in the line of duty so far this year. Chicago, with their very strict gun laws, has seen 2,139 people shot. 2,100 people shot. But they've got all these great gun laws. Doesn't seem to really be working out at all. 366 homicides in the Windy City. And a subject that we talk about a lot, and we will be talking about at great length here in a little bit. Saudi Arabia, Americans' great ally, does what they want. They're our good buddies.
What they want, when they want, and how they want.
The latest story about them is absolutely sickening, and stick around, we will definitely be talking about that. But so far this year, 132 executions, the majority of which are public beheadings. So when the United States talks about human rights, they're not talking about human rights. They're talking about people that don't go with the flow, that they don't do what they're ordered to do. Perfect example. This was definitely a topic in the debates last night, and it just absolutely made me want to vomit all over the floor when they were talking about it, is Russia. Okay, Russia's going over to help Syria. Russia's going over to help Syria. Well, Russia's been helping Syria and helping to arm Syria since 1956.
No, man, they just became friends. What are you talking about?
No,
that's the reason that we need to immediately end all of our involvement with Russia.
And that's what they're saying. That this is how heated this situation's gotten. Russia's coming in to help Syria. Somebody I was talking to last night, I pulled up an article for them from the Chicago Tribune from 1956, where Russia pledged their support. They signed an arms agreement that year. They actually signed an agreement in 1946 when Syria became independent, but they on paper started, I won't say trading arms, because Russia really started supplying arms to Syria in 1956, and that hasn't stopped since then. So this breaking news of Russia, helping Syria, that's nothing new. That is being used as a fear-mongering tactic. Another horrifying thing that comes away from that whole situation and the fear is that Bashar al-Assad is over there trying to fight ISIS. Fight ISIS. Do you understand that? And the United States is saying, well, yeah, we know you're trying to fight ISIS, and that's neat and all, but we still want you to be taken out.
Well, we're going to get Al-Qaeda to fight ISIS, so don't worry about that.
Oh, yeah.
David
Petraeus, the former head of the CIA, General Petraeus, has said that, we should buddy up with Al-Qaeda to help fight ISIS. I tell you what, let's go ahead and start grabbing a couple of callers here before we really get into the show. Area code 915. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. Tell us your name and where you're calling from tonight.
My name is Z, and I'm calling from Texas, El Paso, Texas.
El Paso, Texas. How you doing tonight?
Doing good. Just reading up on your latest post.
Oh yes, about the about Ahmed.
Yes, Ahmed. Yeah, I barely heard about it yesterday. Just, I'm very surprised, the ridiculous things that happen nowadays.
Well, and one of the things that I remarked as we were preparing for the show tonight is the fact that on my Facebook feed, I will catch the occasional news story and click on it, read some of the comments, and the rhetoric coming from the hard right is the fact that, well, at least those teachers erred on the side of caution.
Did they?
Yeah, they were just keeping the school safe, and thank goodness nobody was blown up from that clock. One of the hilarious things, if you've actually seen a picture of it, and I encourage anybody who's listening to check this story out further than your Facebook feed that you've seen. A lot of people have just seen the headline and don't really know a whole lot about the story. Yeah, the first thing that struck me when I saw the picture of the quote-unquote bomb was the fact that it had a plug on it. How many times have you ever seen a bomb with a plug on it? Seriously. Think about it. I've seen, I would say 80 episodes of MacGyver. I've seen about half of the series of 24. A lot of bombs in there. Never saw a plug on one of them.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show, like the world we're living in this country. People overreact. People don't feel safe. Media doesn't help. Instead of informing people, it just makes them believe. Something like that could easily happen anywhere. I kind of fall under a lot of hate every now and then. Just because I have of my Middle Eastern descendancy. It's very funny because I was at work today and this guy shows me the post. It's like, hey, dude, you might be related to this kid. He might even be your son. Like, why are you letting him, take clocks to school? Look at him. Now he's a terrorist. And it's very ignorant comments that people, always make of me, because I have a beard and, I do look, very Middle Eastern, of course. I have a Mexican background and I was born in the United States. As you can hear me, I don't have an accent, for anybody to think, I'm Middle Eastern. But yet, looks, and it starts off with ridicule. I was reading the post and how, one person's talking to another person, debating whether, the people at the school were thinking it was a bomb or not. So where do we go from there? Like, how do you go from, okay, was this a joke? Is that how it started? Or was there a real concern about the child might have a device that could be a bomb,
Well, they didn't evacuate the school. They didn't have a bomb squad come in and detonate this clock.
Bear in mind, I could understand if there was a precedent set. If this kid had, like, say, put a Facebook post that was very questionable, I'm going to go to school and do something violent today, or, like we've seen so many times with...
But he's obviously just like a very smart 14-year-old science nerd.
Well, let me finish that sentence, is that, like we've seen so many times with Caucasian school shooters that are all hyped up on FDA-approved medication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nobody's bringing that up, by the way.
And here's the thing I think, too, and it's unfortunate because I absolutely believe that this wouldn't have happened if he wasn't from Middle Eastern descent. But I think you get it.
Oh, that conclusion wouldn't have been immediately raised.
It wouldn't have been, but I think, too, so many people look at... Everybody wants to, look at racism as, well, this is the problem, but nobody wants to look any deeper. And I believe they think, well, you have a different colored skin, and so they're scared at a different shade of skin. Where in reality, what it is, I personally believe it's this simple: is people have these inherent fears, okay, and for whatever reason, these other people have a certain fear about what that ethnicity or skin color or whatever that the media has portrayed. So they have all this built-up fear, whether it could be anything, whether you're in England and it's Irish. It's not always skin color, but people have all these huge fears going on, and so they react out of fear. This is why we have to get to a stage where I genuinely believe we got to get past all the race stuff on every side. We got to get past all, you're this religion, you're that religion, because it's all based in fear, and people react out of fear, and the hate comes from the fear.
And
the hate doesn't come from the hue of skin of the other person. It comes from the fear of the person that's misplaced.
Does the average American realize how much money is being made off of their fear?
No, they do not.
I mean, I think it just, that amazes me. It just blows my mind.
Well, speaking of fear that you probably should have for a country, we're definitely going to get back to the topic of Saudi Arabia right now. And as we most times try to have on the show, our fantastic writer for antimedia.org, Ms. Claire Burnish. Claire, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Cannot complain, ma'am.
Good evening, Miss Claire. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Let's talk about it.
Okay. So yes, you've been doing some research today, and you've got an article coming out on antimedia.org in the morning about one of my favorite topics that I would love for the problem to be solved and never discuss again, Saudi Arabia.
Yes, indeed. So in 2012, there was a 17-year-old who participated in some of the Arab Spring uprisings against, kind of anti-government protests and riots and whatever. And he was arrested for that. And he was held in a juvenile facility where I guess there's evidence that he's been tortured. And he was forced to sign a concession that he also had some sort of firearm with him when he was at these protests. And he claims, of course, and so does his family, that to be totally innocent. But he has gone through their, quote-unquote court system, and he was given a death sentence of crucifixion. And
wow.
He just, yeah, exactly.
For those of you who aren't aware, crucifixion is more than just something in the Bible. It is very, very, very gruesome, very painful. The point is to cause as much agony as possible. And this is somebody that was at a 17-year-old that was at an anti-government protest.
Exactly. He did something that many of us have done before. But, and there's a little bit, it sounds like a little bit of a witch hunt in this particular story, because his family member of his is sort of a well-known critic of the government, or at least the monarchy there.
So what you're telling me is America's great ally is behind some of apps. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm kind of speechless at this, that we're sitting here having a presidential debate last night, and they're talking about Iran, and the Saudis are doing this. This is outrageous.
Right now, I found somewhere that there was a statistic that they're averaging beheading a person every other day.
For the past year, that is true. So far, in 2015, it's 132 they're up to.
So they're a little behind, but there's plenty of time to catch up, I'm sure.
And that has actually, I think last year, I'm not going to tell you the number off the top of my head. I'm not with it tonight. But I think last year it was like 87 for the entire year. Salman took office. He, took the throne in January. And so far this year, they're already 132. So they're blew past what they did last year. And
So plenty of time left in the year. Plenty of time.
it's just, the
That's
human
hard.
rights abuses and the death. And again, what you mentioned, these 132 executions, these are public executions.
Yes.
This isn't done, like in the United States where somebody's in some back room of some prison. This is out in public for people to come watch.
Exactly. It's supposed to be, it's obviously a fear tactic, and, for what it's worth, I guess that would work, but that's how far it can get.
Oh, and I think that is the point of this crucifixion. I think this is all to instill fear in the citizens so they can see this is what happens when you question the regime.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's any bigger than that because, a lot of the executions, they've executed actually a lot of foreigners this year from all over the region. And a lot of it is drug smuggling. I think there's been a couple of murders that they've executed. Most of it's drug smuggling. But this is somebody protesting against the government and has a link to a family member who is against the Saudi royal family. So, of course, this would be the one you want to make the biggest show out of because that's what you want to suppress the most. Is no dissent against what the royal family is saying.
You're right.
See how far it can go, too? That's why it needs to be kept in check.
Well, and again, that you make an excellent point there because as we're having this conversation, I kind of harken back to a lot of a lot of people think that we've got it bad here in the United States. Whenever we bring up, or whenever I personally bring up some of the issues and topics that we talk about on the show, night in and night out, and somebody will pipe up and say, well, at least it's not as bad as over there in the Middle East. You go over there and you steal something, they cut your hand off. Everybody talks about oppression and this, that, and the other. We're not any kind of oppressed like that. But the point you just made, that really should be driven home. The fact that that's what's going to happen if we don't keep it in check and we extend the government more powers and more oppression over our lives.
Mm-hmm. That's always been my fear. I think that's part of the reason why I enjoy writing and things like that. I want to keep everybody informed because you can't just, suddenly give up on one thing or just give in a little bit and let the powers that be take more and more of freedoms that we should have in the first place. Because it can go to extremes really easily.
But we're living in a world now where everybody thinks, it's one thing or another, but really, the United States' biggest problem is ignorance. You present somebody with actual hard evidence, facts, and you're turned into a conspiracy theorist immediately. You're crazy. Or the big one you get, well, that may be true. But if it was really a big deal, then the media would be reporting it. That's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
You mean, wait a minute, whoa. Are you implying that the media could be bought and somebody could, I don't know, maybe turn and twist the news however they want to turn and twist it?
No. Like I said at the beginning of the show, last night was a perfect example.
Conspiracy talk, go and put your tinfoil hat on.
Yeah, last night was a perfect example of Rubio talking about how he wants to bomb everybody on the planet. And, as I like to call him, Marco Bushio, because that's what he is. And the media, after the fact, and all the pundits are like, well, he sounded great on foreign policy. He really had it together. That was fantastic. Great job, Marco. And yet, the whole time he's like, we need to bomb this, we need to bomb that, we need to bomb this. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And the craziest part about it is it's all for profit that doesn't mean anything in the first place.
That's it. I think you said it. And we touched on that last week some, too, when we were talking about Genie Energy. It all goes back to profit, and that's what goes back to what's going on in Syria right now.
Yep. It's all, I don't know, it's overwhelming to see how much destruction can be actually possible just for the sake of money and profit. I don't know. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me any longer. And these examples are just getting more and more extreme and more violent, and I don't know. It doesn't look very good right now.
I hate to say it, and it's not like I'm the most positive person in the world, but it's hard to see a silver lining right now. It really is. But I tell you what, thank you so much for calling in, Claire, and everybody, please be looking for that article in the morning to get more in depth about that.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good night.
Yes, ma'am. You too.
Good night, Miss Claire.
Night. Bye.
All right, I want to bring on a brand new writer right now for Antimedia that's only written for us for a little less than a month now. Down on the plains of Auburn, Alabama.
Woo! We'll have some fun with this fella.
I'll forgive him for that, but
as I take a sip of coffee from my Alabama Crimson Tide coffee cup.
Mr. Dan Sanchez. Dan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. So you posted a story earlier on the page that's absolutely fascinating. The correlation you made about Ahmed Muhammad and just having gotten arrested for bringing a clock to school, and Abdul Rahim al-Awlaki that was, killed 2 weeks after his father in a cafe by Barack Obama, and, the statement basically was by the government was, well, his dad should have been a nicer guy, basically.
I'm sorry, what was the last part?
Basically, the government responded to, why'd you kill this 16-year-old kid who was an American citizen born in Colorado, why'd you kill him? And it was, his dad should have been a nicer guy. That's pretty much what they came back with.
That's right. Yeah, he said that he should have had a more responsible father, as if he had a choice of who his father was.
Luke Skywalker should have been killed then.
Right.
So, tell us a little bit more about the story and kind of give us a rundown a little bit of what happened with Ahmad for those who don't know, and then the comparison, which could have absolutely been the same person.
Sure, yeah. So Ahmed is a freshman he's at a new school. He wants to impress his teachers. So he's a tinkerer. He's a kind of a Jimmy Neutron type kid, and he invents electronic stuff all the time. And so he decides that he wants to just invent something simple to show them real quick. And so he just throws together a clock, just a homemade clock, and he brings it in and he shows it to the engineering teacher. The engineering teacher is kind of wary. He's not dumb enough to think it's a bomb, but he warns him not to show it to other teachers, maybe because he knows that other teachers would be. He shows it to his English teacher, and then she does report it, and the cops are called, and they bring him in for questioning. And I just can't get over the quote that they have in the Washington Post article where one of the interrogators actually says, "It looks like a movie bomb to me." And so, they always have the movie scenes of the digital display, and then that's the big focus. Maybe there's like some different wires that they have to cut, and they have to decide which wires to cut.
Tom Cruise has to go cut a wire real quick on top of a train or something.
Right. But the most prominent thing is the clock, because everybody's worried about the countdown and everything. So it's like idiocracy, and these cops and teachers are idiocrats. And
the sad part, I have to say, is it sounds like the first teacher was actually like looking out for him and was like, okay, there's a bunch of idiots around here, so just for your best interest, you probably shouldn't show them this because there's no telling what'll happen.
Yeah, right. And so then they arrest him. They handcuff him, and they march him out and take him into and jail him temporarily, and they even do mug shots, and it's just a humiliating experience. And even after they released it, there was still a threat of even after they determined that it wasn't a bomb, there was still a threat that that they would charge him with bringing a bomb hoax. Like, even though it wasn't a bomb, that he was trying to do some kind of hoax or something.
So here's my real quick question.
Yeah.
Did they ever evacuate the school?
No.
So, if they really thought it was a bomb...
Well, because it wasn't plugged in. I mean, come on, man.
Genuinely. So they were just going to risk all those kids getting blown up, or do you think that they were just picking on this kid?
Exactly. That's exactly. I mean, it just betrays their lie, because if they, like you say, if they really did think it was a bomb, they wouldn't be just standing around it and taking pictures of it and asking him about it right next to it, and they'd be calling the bomb squad and they'd be evacuating the school. But but they just wanted to humiliate him. So their story doesn't hold up at all.
So that kind of leads us into the tweet, though.
Right.
The infamous tweet by the almighty Barack Obama.
Right. So everybody, it goes viral. This story goes viral, and he's the kid is very considered very sympathetic. Like, everybody's on the kid's side, which is great. And so, of course, Obama wants to get in on the action too, and so he tweets, "Cool clock, Ahmed. Want to bring it to the White House?" So he's inviting him to the White House, and what strikes me about it is just the hypocrisy of it, because here he is, he's posing as this like champion of tolerance of this poor innocent victim kid who was just trying to live his life and do something interesting, and then he's getting persecuted by the government, and he is the number one persecutor of Muslims on the planet. That he's constantly killing innocent Muslims, calling it collateral damage. He's bombed 7 predominantly Muslim countries during his presidency.
Man, if all those Republicans were right, and he is a Muslim, he is the worst Muslim ever.
Yeah, he really is. In fact, I would think he would probably be the most wanted Muslim in the world.
Yeah, jeez, get it together, Barack.
Exactly, and I make the point that talk about prejudice. His drone program is extremely prejudiced, because he has these policies like signature strikes, where the target isn't even identified. It's just the drone. The drone operator sees some figure in some area that's doing something that might fit some sort of threat matrix or something, and so they kill them, having no idea who they are even. That is extreme prejudice being done to Muslims, and lethal prejudice, not just arresting them. And I talk about how Obama has a method for counting civilian casualties in a way that counts all military-age males in a strike zone as combatants.
That's true. That's what they do. I think like every male over like 21 or 20, whatever the age is, they count as a military combatant, even though it could just be some guy walking down the street minding his own business.
Right. And it's even younger than that, I think. So in all these ways, it's just really hypocritical, especially because one particular drone strike killed an American, Muslim American, an American citizen, teenager who actually kind of looks like Ahmed. Abdul Rahman Al-Laki is a 16-year-old. Ahmed was 14. And skinny, sweet-looking kid with glasses. and his father was a very bad person. That his father was like advocated terrorism and the killing of innocents, but he wasn't involved. The kid wasn't involved in that at all. He was just going to Yemen just to look for his father because he knew that his father was targeted, and he was so afraid that his father was going to die, and so he was just going to look for him. He had no ties. He was just a regular American teenage kid, and the CIA killed him with a drone. 2 weeks after, like you said, 2 weeks after his father was killed, he was eating dinner with another teenager, his teenage cousin. They were saying goodbye. He was about to go back to his regular life in America, and they killed him. They just killed him. And when they were pressed for why it killed him, the top Obama advisor, like you said, just said, well, he should have had a better father, a more responsible father. And Obama has joked about killing teenage boys. This was a year before killing Abdul Rahman. He at the Washington press corps, the correspondence dinner, he does this joke about the Jonas Brothers, the teeny bop band. He says, the Jonas Brothers are here. They're out there somewhere. Sasha and Malia are huge fans, his daughters, but the boys don't get any ideas. I have 2 words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming. Ha ha ha. Isn't that funny that I actually, on a regular basis, have teenage boys, real life teenage boys killed all the time, and now I'm joking about, killing these, you.
And, it's amazing how flippant he can be about killing innocent people, and yet, the guy's got a Nobel Peace Prize. He's, this huge defender of civil rights. Trayvon Martin could be my son. That whole story. Meanwhile, away from the cameras overseas, where nobody's paying attention, he's murdering a 16-year-old American citizen.
Right.
And also, this is what it is. His father, Anwar al-Awlaki, dined at the Pentagon, and there's FBI documents to suggest that he was an informant, or he had at least been in communication with them. At least is in 2003 that was going on, and if later, but the whole thing, his dad did say some bad stuff, but what does that have to do with him? What does that have to do with him?
Right.
So do you think there's I don't know. Did you watch any of the debates last night?
No, I try to abstain.
See, I definitely watch it for the theater, and the scary part is it's going to get worse. Like, the people on that stage, it's going to be 10 times worse. The rhetoric that they're talking right now to overthrow Syria, go in Syria, talking about vacuums, talking about helping work with Al-Qaeda to overthrow ISIS, and then at the same time we should overthrow Assad, who's still trying to fight ISIS. Like, it's this 1984 doublethink, and nothing they say really makes sense other than we just want to bomb some people.
Yeah, just as long as there's fighting going on, that that America will work both sides. That they'll bomb Assad and they'll bomb ISIS at the same time, and they'll support ISIS's allies in Syria while supporting ISIS's enemies in Iraq, the Shiite government in Iraq, and so it's really bad. And I just hope that Ahmed does the same thing that Malala, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, teenage girl, did when she went to the White House. That she challenged Obama on his drone wars to his face, and so I hope that Ahmed does the same thing and just asks him, Abdul Rahman is a kid just like me. Like what? I don't deserve prejudicial, treatment by these cops. So why did he deserve, being terminated with extreme prejudice, as they say, by your drone operators? And
I think if it did happen, it would be just, I don't know if he would know how to respond. I think he would just kind of stand there dumbfounded, to be honest with you.
I think he's usually pretty quick on the draw. He'll say something really quick and give him a pat on the shoulder and say, "Well, I've got to get out of here, kid. Got some president stuff to do. Holla." And exit stage left.
Especially since it'll be meant for him as just, a PR opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, the one time that he really was given a tough question on these kinds of issues was when Ben Swan asked him about his Syria policy, and he basically just gave double speak an answer, just contradicting his first sentence with the second sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And so as long as he sounds like he's making an argument, then people will give him a pass, and so he might try to do something like that.
And chances are it's probably what he'll do. But I tell you what, thank you, Dan, so much. And for everybody out there, please go check out that article. It is on the front page of antimedia.org right now. It's an absolutely fantastic article, Dan, and I hope everybody out there listening goes and reads it.
Thanks, yeah, and it's a great cover image. So to look for the just cover image with one half of the face of Ahmed and the other half of the face of Abdul Rahman in a Time magazine cover. It's just like the movie poster to Ides of March. It's a really great cover, image, so that'll make it easy to find it. So thanks everybody.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Fear.
It is.
It's so much money is made off of fear.
That's
so much
it.
money.
I mean, everything we talk about, whether we're talking about what's going on in Syria or we talk about, police officers in this country, the reaction is always based in fear. And the establishment always gets away with its violence because they portray fear to the average American. They try to get them to embrace the fear, and that gives them free rein to do whatever they want because the average American is all of a sudden, well, I love my family. I don't want my family to get hurt. How do we keep this from happening? Well, the government's like, we got an answer. Violence. Mm-hmm. Or if it's retroactively, yeah, we committed some violence. And we may have screwed up, but we were trying to keep you safe. So, just get us a pass on this one. Okay, you were trying to keep us safe. I know, you're heroes. You're all heroes. And that's how they get away with this.
I encourage anyone listening to go back and check out the epic, I think it's his greatest film ever, Stanley Kubrick film, Dr. Strangelove. And check out the last 10, 15 minutes of that film because that's really what's at stake here. Screw everybody else. And yeah, we kind of screwed up here, but we'll go over here and go off in a cave somewhere and we'll propagate and come back out and we'll be stronger and whiter than... Oh, did I say that? We'll be stronger than ever.
Yeah. And that's what we're dealing with. I mean, there has to come a time where we've heard the same rhetoric over and over and over and over. And people have to start waking up and going, okay, we've heard this before. We know where this has gotten us. And I keep referring back to debates last night, and I know there's so many of our listeners and so many great people that we work with here at Anti-Media. They're just, completely detached from that side of politics, and rightly so. They're all puppets, and it doesn't matter what they say. But for me personally, I understand that the majority of Americans are listening to that. Almost 23 million people tuned in for the debates last night because it was a reality show with Donald Trump front and center. So they're hearing this rhetoric. So for me personally, if this is what the American people are hearing, I want to know what needs to be combated. I want to know what fearmonger is spewing his nonsense today, so I know what information to present to the American people, or to the world for that matter. Let's go ahead and jump on another phone call. Area code 512. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. This is your host, S.M. Gibson. Tell us your name and where you were calling from tonight.
This is Robert from Texas.
Robert from Texas. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Oh, not too bad, man. A little concerned.
Yeah, tell us what's going on.
Electronic voting fraud. I've been watching HAVA. Their funds and policies wreak havoc on our electoral process over the last decade. And I'm curious as to, who's taking up this fight in this election? Doesn't seem like anybody is.
Well,
I've looked towards black box voting, and I haven't gotten anything from them yet either.
Well, we've tried to. We've reached out to her, and we're trying to get her on the show soon. For those of you who have not seen the documentary Hacking Democracy, I strongly urge you to go out and watch that to get more of a background of what Robert's talking about here.
Oh, absolutely. No, I used to work for a public broadcaster. I've been following it for a long time, and I'm at the point in my life, and so are so many people that I know, that we don't even want to vote anymore. It's pointless.
And I hate to, as pessimistic as that sounds, you're right. It's true because, I think right now, I think everything goes through channels and stages, and I think the first stage is definitely the media weeding out, for the most part. Like 2012 with Romney, they say, well, Romney's going to get it no matter what you do, no matter what you do, no matter what you do. And when that fails, I think like in Maine, for instance, look what happened there. Ron Paul beat Romney in Maine. Well, guess what? Voter fraud, and Romney comes out winning. So, they go through their channels. Now, you personally, have you experienced or seen firsthand any of the voting fraud in Texas?
No, not personally. No, but I'm just now digging in that regard as far as investigations concerned.
There are, and I tell you what, I will post it up on the Facebook page a little later on. I know there's a couple more documentaries too that I suggest everybody out there watch. But absolutely, the voter fraud is rampant, and they do it on multiple different levels. Diebold
we can't even touch it, really. Just, conversationally, it's a really deep subject. From the conditioning all the way to the ballot box.
It is, and we're living in. I don't know if Americans just have their head in the sand on this issue, but it took forever for people to realize that the government can turn on, the camera of your computer or tap into your phone, and they're recording every conversation you have. They're listening to every single electronic communication that you have, and yet, we have these electronic voting machines. Well, they would never do that. That's how we start all these conversations, even with drones. Whatever you think about Rand Paul, the country was never having the drone debate until he goes up there and talks for 13 hours about it. And then all of a sudden, oh, this is a thing. We should probably talk about this.
Yeah,
Snowden,
we
would have never talked about the surveillance state to the degree we're talking about today if it wasn't for Snowden.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think the same thing is going to have to happen with the voting fraud in this country. Is it's going to have to take somebody coming out on the inside and blowing the whistle and saying, look, this is going on. People need to address this now.
And it's a real problem, and it's far-reaching from local to national. And it affects policies, like I said, locally to the national, to the international level. You can't affect any real change with that kind of a firewall.
And that's it. And that's part of the reason, I think there's so much distance people put themselves on the political system, and they don't pay attention to the candidates, and they don't pay attention to the debates, because, they know that this is what's going on, so what's it matter if they pay attention to it? And it's like I was just talking before we brought you on the air here, is for me, I still want to keep up with the propaganda that they're spewing, because that still gets in people's ears, and that's still going to affect how people react to things when Congress or the president or the media or whoever it may be says, okay, now we've got to go to war, and they've been hearing in these debates for 4 months that, oh, well, I know that Syria is bad, so we should probably go ahead and do that. So just because you're not watching the debate to elect somebody, because you're not, the whole thing's rigged. But
I watch it. It's more of an entertainment venue at this point.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, it's just a reality show.
Right.
But I tell you,
and who better than a reality star to be leading the polls right now? That's what this has been reduced to.
Very true. I tell you what, Robert, thank you so much for calling in tonight. Absolutely great caller. That is a huge topic. I mean, that was literally what I was talking about before he called in. So great information there. And black box voting, for those of you who haven't heard of that, please check that out. And again, the documentary Hacking Democracy. And you will see that your elections aren't as clean cut as you wish they would be. I mean, it's funny. You'll get Republicans joking about, well, Democrats have all these dead people voting. And, that's true. There was a lady that came out, I believe it was in Ohio, after this last election, and she said she voted for Obama 6 times. But Republicans are completely naive if they really believe that it's just Democrats doing this, because once you start seeing the rigging of the electronic voting, it's predominantly on that end Republicans. So it's happening all across the board, both major parties, and yet, well, their party does it. Of course they do it, but our party would never do such a thing.
Yeah, both sides are deflating balls. Trust me. Hanging chads. Remember that? Remember when that was a thing?
Yeah. I do. And that's the thing, that goes back to the division. That goes back to the fear, because Democrats are told to fear Republicans. Republicans are told to fear Democrats. They're going to implement some crazy policy that's just going to ruin the country. And that's what both sides see the other side as. But when you look at the policies from both sides, what change is there? What difference is there in these policies? Does anybody really believe that if Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio becomes president, that we're not going to bomb somebody? And then on the flip side, that if Hillary Clinton becomes president, we're not going to bomb somebody?
Oh, man.
And there's no difference here.
None.
And yet, people still get in, again, fear. The propaganda is meant to push fear upon people. Absorb it. Are you scared, Shannon? Are you terrified? You need to be terrified. Somebody's coming to get you.
Not in a million years. I've already picked my candidate out. Free ponies and candy for everybody.
He's got a boot on his head. I'd be scared.
There's been no mention of free candy or ponies in last night's Republican debate. I want to be on the record about that right now.
Well, hey, I will say this. The Democratic debate is coming up soon, so Bernie Sanders may drop some free ponies in there with his free everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of free everything with him. I like the, what was it, like $18 trillion if you added up all of the free this and free that he's going to give America. $18 trillion.
And, what people don't realize, and it wasn't brought up one time last night, because why would it? Because none of these candidates are there to really try to change what the real problem is. And they sit here and they talk about the economy, and we're this and we're that, and China, and China's having this, they're screwing with the currency. What do you think the Federal Reserve does? What do you think the Treasury Department is allowing to happen? Why do you think that inflation, it's the worst tax we have? Why do you think the dollar is worthless? Worthless.
I think you need to quit talking all this conspiracy stuff, because you're just like, man, all up in my ears, and we haven't talked hardly enough about Trump tonight. Come on. Yeah, and again,
that's where the ratings are.
Yeah, and that's where the whole conversation about everything is right now. It's whatever flavor of the moment, and Donald Trump is indeed the flavor of the moment, and that is a bitter, nasty.
I want to try to make a point out there for our listeners, and I've done this in the past, but to really drive home what the problem with the economy is and why. Nobody's offering a real issue. Unless they mention the word inflation, nobody's offering a real solution. Shannon, what year were you born?
Do I have to say?
You can make up a number.
I don't know, 90. Okay, it might be a little bit past that. I was born in 1975. I'm 40.
Okay. So, we will look up. They talked about a $10 bill last night. On the debate. So let's look up what $10 in 1975 today equivalent of $44.30.
Wouldn't it be nice to make that an hour?
$44.30. So that means in 1975, if you made $10 an hour, the equivalent would be making $44 an hour in 2015. And yet, it's China manipulating the currency. It's this problem. It's that problem. It's inflation. It's the Federal Reserve. Sorry, that has to be addressed. It has to be. And they're not, we're not getting an audit out of it. It's crazy. I hate to out you on your age right there, but.
Yeah, we didn't talk about how old you were.
Younger than that.
Big baby.
So when are we going to get down to the real solutions? Because I think that's one reason people have gravitated towards the Donald Trumps and the Ben Carsons and the Carly Fiorinas is they're outsiders. They're not elected officials. And I do think there is a sense in this country that people are tired of the politicians and they're tired of the same ridiculous rhetoric, but they're looking for answers in all the wrong places, especially when you have somebody like Trump that talks about last night that he's been in politics his whole life, just on the other side, insinuating he's been buying them. They just discussed it in the first debate.
Insinuating? He's out and out said it.
Yeah.
I have bought these candidates before. I've said I've got all of them sitting in my office begging for money. And you've even had, it was the candidate that piped up and said, where's my check at?
Oh, in the first
and then Rand Paul. Then Rand Paul kind of came and said, "Well, I don't want any of your money." Well, you're not getting any. Ha ha. Yeah. Theater. The Royal Rumble.
Yeah, him buying politicians, unfortunately, I don't think is theater.
No.
And I think it's funny that people look at Trump and they're like, yeah, but he's the guy with the money. Nobody's going to buy him. He doesn't need to be bought. And well, clearly Jeb Bush, Rubio, Ted Cruz, whoever. They're going to be bought for by these corporations. But if Donald Trump's admitting that he's been the one buying these politicians, well, what have these politicians done? Like, if he's the guy pulling the strings, that hadn't worked out.
They're not doing the job right. I'll get in there and do it myself. Yeah, I make deals all over this world. Yeah. And it's just another deal for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line, this is another trophy that he can stick on his mantle. That he was got to be president of the United States at one time. That's all he really gives a damn about. He didn't give a damn about the American citizens. He doesn't give a damn about you.
He cares about his ego.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all. That's the only thing that this is about with Trump. Is his ego. And you put a megalomaniac like that in office, dealing with the rest of the world, dealing with other politicians from all across the world.
Well, what's scary is I think
middle fingers in the air. I mean,
I think
really.
What's scary is the American people are saying, but they're all megalomaniacs. They're all crazy. At least this guy admits it. Yeah.
Good point.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Anti-Media Radio tonight. We will be back with you next week. Join Nick on Monday. I am your host, SM Gibson.
Show him some love.
Anti-Media Radio out.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.